Jersey. I can't forget New Jersey. I can't forget New Jersey.
Bitch, I run straight up mountains in the blistering cold, hitting the bowl. I'm realer than what fishermen hold. You can meet me on the stage and see which of us fold. Son, I know my shit backwards like Ishmael. My daddy was an Indiana Rolling Stone, but you can drop me in the hood and I'ma hold my own. I've been here since the earth formed. Sip beer with the firstborns. You ain't worth the mic that God burps on. Some dudes will buy anything I spit a verse on.
I see that a phenomenon could exist, like where maybe Shakespeare could press up these copies, and I believe in him as much as I believe in, you know, I believe in his potential to do whatever that other group is, because I know how good he is. I don't know how good the other group is, but I know that Shakespeare was good, and that album was good. But here's the deal, man. I mean, like, and the dudes that produced it are from around here. They're from Willingboro. The two guys that did the production on that album. You know what they did, by the way? They would tape jazz stations and use an SP1200 to take the you know, actual live radio jazz. That's how they got their samples back then. You know what I mean? 'Cause they had a turntable. And like, but so anyway, so I mean, I know that there's a market for it, but let's just say that it hits a ceiling at about $5,000 for doing something like that, right? Okay, and I'm going high and assuming cheap, right? And assuming everything works out. I think that really what it is that even if I were one of those guys, which I'm not, and I had the potential to take one of my releases from the early 90s and do that for $5,000, I probably wouldn't want to put the money into it. I mean, not even the $500. And the reason is because you know, you're talking to a group of guys that were beaten down to the point where they quit. You know what I mean? And you know, the potential that, you know, that other people see in them is almost an insult. Matter of fact, I know how they feel, because I'm already getting to the age now where people are coming up to me and, you know, like when I'm at these hip hop shows, or like even on the internet, man. I mean, I have people emailing me about, oh, I love Turn Back Time. I'm like, Jesus Christ! I wrote that song, you know, like when I was like 19 years or 20 years old or something, man. It's not even me anymore, and it's just like, you know, it infuriates them, you know, as it probably would me. Jeez, man, I mean, I've been growing all these years and evolving, but the moment has changed, and you know, it's just more affirmation that this moment doesn't really exist, and that other moment is all that's left. And then once that $5,000 ceiling gets hit, man, it's like really, and you know, that's the potential. That's where it hit. You know, these guys don't want to see that, man. That mark. You know, if I were to guess why these guys are not chasing after me looking for these reels, is probably because, you know, they're not doing it. One guy, and man, Diz. The voice that Diz had, you know, in Soul Survivors, man, he was an amazing MC, man. I would put him right next to Shakespeare. I mean, in certain songs above, man, and in his production, he did his beats, man. I mean, like, so the thing is, man, is that you know, the reason you haven't heard of him is because all they did was that one test pressing. They never released the 500 LP thing like Shakespeare ended up doing. You know what I mean? But the thing is that if I were to guess why he wouldn't run after something like that, it's probably because he's a Trenton cop and he's making a decent salary. You know, he's got a family. And these guys are like, you know, that's my, you know, that's part of my youth, and that's something that other people are looking into now and appreciating. But a lot of these guys don't carry that identity with them into their like 30s and 40s, man. You know, they just kind of look at it as something they did back in the day. All right, well, here's the situation. And look, whenever I tell a story about something, I always have to say the disclaimer that I heard the story for a certain way. So I don't know how it actually went down. You know, I only know what I heard. When Tony D was, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but when he was putting together that PRT re-releases LP and CD,
the unreleased,
he did that with the guys at Redline Distribution. I met those dudes, and like, you know, we went out to Brooklyn a couple times. He was DJing like right around like 2004 in that time period, and that's when he was really. I might be wrong a little about the date, but he was doing this unreleased and remixed, you know, PRT CD and vinyl at the time. And he was hip to this whole, you know, revival market of vinyl and all that stuff.
He was.
The way I heard it from him is that, you know, and you know, and I'm not gonna, just so you know, I'm not going to address the issues between him and Wise and like all the things that surround that. But one thing about this though that I do know is that he was, I think that I remember something about it not being a totally like cooperative situation, or like, or maybe, or something along the lines of like Wise was really more into what he was doing right now, and wasn't quite as into what Tony D was putting together, and that's how I heard it. You know, that's how I got it from Tone. Now here's the thing though, and I recognized that, and I said, huh, yeah, Wise is probably working on something right now. And he's like, you know, I'm moving on from this, and I'm not going to try to squeeze anything left, you know, out of this. I'm I'm alive and breathing, and I'm an artist, and I'm doing my thing. And I saw I saw his side of things from how it was explained to me by Tony. So, like, I can understand where a lot of these dudes are going, man. I mean, if I was lucky enough to have started maybe 5 years earlier, 4 years earlier, I probably would have been pulled along into the wave of the guys from this area, but I started a little, I started getting opportunities like in like 98,
Right.
90, so it was already a little too late. But if I were one of those guys, I could kind of understand what they're saying, man. I mean, like, I know how much work Tone has, man, and I
know. Unfortunately, he was getting ready to put out like a lot of stuff, sort of right.
Well, yeah, and he
that
passed,
came along.
and he had the guy had hours and hours and hours of music, so it chapped his ass. He loved Rock This Funky Joint and everything, but it pissed him off that Rock This Funky Joint was like one of the only things people tied him to. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because he did the Grand Central records. Which were awesome, and he did like loads of unreleased material. He's got like a solo album that he never released, and then he did. And I'm not going to have the poor taste to even mention the stuff that we did together, the group that we did, or any of the stuff, excluding all of that stuff. He had a humongous body of work, and it bothered him as an artist that as time passed, that the recognition that he was getting was just from that one record, and some of the surrounding records, some of the other records he did with PRT, and. There's I can understand why these dudes don't jump at these chances. The thing about Tone, man, is like he was really hip to the he cared about records a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
And with him, he was really in tune with what was happening. Where honestly it was never on my radar. Because me personally as an artist, I'm a fan of hip hop, but I don't dig that deep. I follow artists. I keep their catalogs. I mean, I have all the Sadat extras. I got like Stay New York versus Derek Murphy. I've got like, the ones that people didn't like. I got all 3 You Got albums. I mean, like I follow artists. The thing is that I don't really look for that rare and unreleased stuff too much. I don't. That's not one of the things that fascinates me as much. I mean, it probably would make sense that it would, but I don't know if maybe it's just like, it's kind of like the guy I know that I don't have that extra. You see how much stuff I'm into, man. I just know that I don't want to open that can of worms and get into that too. You know what I mean? But the thing is that, like I was saying before, he was very in tune to that, and like I knew he had a lot of ideas about it. Like he was trying to contact Chief to re-release Warpath. He kept trying to go through me to get to certain artists that I couldn't reach for him at the time, or who I mentioned it to, but it never materialized or whatever. But he passed away with some of those records, like in his possession. Like there's some of the ones like the one Warpath copy, and the thing is that like he wanted the reels. He was ambitious about getting the reels and doing this. Like that was one of the things he was really looking forward to doing, and I think that was a direction he was going to go in, and he never got a chance to do it. But he was one of the folks that was realistic about what was happening, and I think he saw that he had that link to hip hop history, and he wanted to use it to release more records and material.